Hi there, welcome to the video. My name is Marcus, and I blow glass. Today we're going to be making this Retticello. And I used to do these a lot back in the day. It's great practice for any kind of line work. Problem is I stopped making them, and honestly I'm not as good as I used to be. So I figured I would revisit the technique and take you guys along for the ride. This certainly won't be the best Retticello you've ever seen, but it's a good exercise in just revisiting techniques and practicing hand skills. So this is some 32mm, maybe 38mm heavy wall tubing. It had a crack in it, so I was fixing that. And then I want it to be thin wall for the Retticello, so I'm blowing it out, doing a pretty terrible job of keeping it on center. And so I decided that I would flare open a blow tube and attach a handle so that I can work from the other side. We're going to pop a hole in this. I like to blow a little mound first and then blow it out in the flame. We'll flare that open a bit. And when I make this connection, I'm going to want to keep it centered to the back of the piece. You know, right where that connection is. Because the wall weight moving out isn't that good. So I'll be trying to correct that. Alright, and that's a pretty good seal. It's kind of off center, but we'll work at it. We're going to take off our handle. And I'm going to try and put a bunch of heat into this, kind of blow it out real even, get it kind of thin. And then I'll heat up the whole side wall and hang it down using gravity. I'll keep the tip of it the hottest during the hanging process. And this will allow the tube to kind of stretch out into a more even form. Here we go, tip the hottest, focusing that heat on the back wall. Nice even rotations. And we're going to start using gravity. The tip is a little thicker than the rest, so I'm going to remove some of that. And then I'll blow it out a little thinner and hang it down again. Blow it out to about the wall weight of the back of that tube. And now we'll use some gravity. A little bit more air to make it nice and even. And we're going to apply our first stringer. So I like to start my line on the curved part of the glass on top because the beginning's never any good. And then that kind of allows you to get your bearings and get going in a straight direction once you're on the flat of that tube. I've got this big pile of stringers back there that I pulled for other projects with more intention. And they were just leftovers, so I figured I should probably use them up on something, and this felt like a good thing to do. we're just going to coat this whole tube in lines with even spaces. And you can kind of find your own pattern that you want to work with for colors. There's a lot of lines involved, so I figured I would just do a bit of a faster mashup of all of this. And now we're going to attach a handle to the other side. I like my handle to be the same diameter on both sides. And I wasn't totally happy with how that connection went, so I'm going to heat it up again and get it more centered to the other handle. Looking pretty good. So we're going to come in here and start doing our twist. Now I like to use overhand, underhand when I'm doing this. And it allows me to quickly bring that tube, that blow tube, up to my mouth when I'm ready to blow. And everything happens pretty quick here. We're gonna get it nice and evenly warm, start twisting, kind of allow it to fall down and maintain that twist, and then add some air. Sometimes I'll give it a little pull just to even out the lines. So we've got that real floppy. We're gonna add some air. And of course you could use a blow hose, but this is really good practice. And we're not trying to make a perfect piece, so, you know, let's build some hand skills. We'll just finish up that twist on the tip. Sometimes when it's a little bit wild, I like to use gravity. Just hang it down, and that way it's not going to get too twisted up on itself. Flame chemistry is important. You kind of want something bushy. It really is just easy does it. Take your time. That wasn't the most even. So I'm kind of looking at it thinking, should I try and fix it? Sometimes it's better just to go with the flow. So I'm just going to finish that twist. Remove the excess material. Try and get that tube into a nice, flat, even shape. Looking pretty good. Right on, so I think we can probably flatten out the sides of the tube using our marver. I don't usually like to do that on thin tubing, but here I think it makes sense. Alright, we'll start adding our second layer of lines. And we're going to wrap them down the piece, keeping the flame just ahead and allowing the splash off of the surface of the tube to heat up our stringer. You don't really want to try and put that flame directly on the stringer. You want that flame to kind of splash up and gradually heat it into the glass. I didn't like that lump there, so I figured I'd remove it and continue the line. Now on a perfect piece, you don't want to do stop-starts, but for this, it's a good demonstration. As much as possible, we want to match the base design. And throughout this process, I'm flashing the piece, keeping it hot in the flame, warming everything up, just like this far out. Because you don't want the glass to get so cold that it cracks. Now I'm just choosing another stringer, something appropriately sized. You want your first set of lines to be thicker than your second. So the second is really twice as hard because they're thinner and you have to curve them. But it really is great practice. Now, my overhead camera died, so unfortunately I don't have any more of those shots. Next time I'll try and switch the battery halfway through. Oh, I dropped it. That's okay, we'll just pick it up and continue. And I would say for your first few of these, just don't worry about trying to make it perfect, you know? Just practice laying these stringers down. It's gonna take a lot of time to get good at this. See, not perfect, but pretty. Alright, I'm gonna use the marver just to kind of round off the tip. You get these little bumps where you start and stop with the stringer. And so I want to melt those in and then use the marver to kind of push them into the glass. We're going to cook the heck out of this. Really get those lines to all melt in evenly. And we'll pull out the tip. Try and make a nice termination. I like using these tweezers. We'll add a handle to the other side, and this will allow us to continue working on the back half of this piece. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. If you're enjoying the demo, consider liking, subscribing, and you can even check out my Patreon to support the channel. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. So we're just going to flare open this blow tube and go ahead and attach it to our piece. Now this Retticello is almost done, so we'll separate the other handle, add a bunch of heat, and start working on blowing out the tip. This piece of glass could be used for anything: a cup, a bowl, a pendant, you name it. But today we're just going to make this section. Thanks a lot for being here. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.